If you feel like there isn't much buzz heading into Bound for Glory next week, well, I'm right there with you. Based on the product they're putting forth right now, you wouldn't know they've got their biggest show of the year coming up. And a lot of that has to do with the backlash of focusing so much on the Aces and Eights angle to the detriment of so many other things, and a lot of it has to do with just the way the show is structured. Not enough time devoted to things that need it, too much time devoted to things that don't need it at this point, and there's a real lack of focus on getting people amped up for this thing. For example, on your biggest pay-per-view of the whole year, you should have the card finalized a little sooner than 10 days before the damn show. And I don't even know if it's finalized now either. Is there going to be an X Division title match at Bound for Glory or not? Beats the hell out of me. And until this week, I would have said the same thing about the television title match. That's how inconsistent the build-up has been for that one.
This whole show is ridiculous!
Unsurprisingly, the through line of the show was all about the Aces and Eights match and who Sting's partner is going to be at Bound for Glory. That was the biggest problem this week. They spent so much damn time deliberating this, and it just wasn't necessary. It was obvious the partner was going to be Bully Ray. Why? Because he's had tons of screen time lately, has been consistently involved in the Aces and Eights angle, and yet he didn't have a Bound for Glory spot yet. Sting choosing Bully Ray as his partner could have been accomplished in one segment. You did not need to spend like a third of the show setting this up. But they go through this whole elaborate production. Anderson beats Gunner with the mic check, gets attacked by Cash, takes out Cash with the mic check in a segment that felt completely random. And yes, it made Anderson look great, but given the state of the tag division, booking one of the few viable teams you have so weakly seems kind of unwise. And this is preceded and followed by multiple pre-tapes, multiple backstage segments about all this, most of which you probably could have cut without losing anything. The main event is more about this than the two guys in the world title match next week. They devote the final segment to it as well, all to get to something that felt like a foregone conclusion before the show even started. And the superfluous amount of time they spent on this really could have been better spent on other things that needed some attention but never got it.
This whole show violates everything about my journalistic integrity.
They have a Knockouts tag team match with Tara and Gale versus Tessmacher and ODB, who came out alone. So they spared us Eric Young. Thank God.
You're welcome.
It does what it needs to do, puts heat on Tara, shows that she'll win by any means necessary. Even teases some stuff between Tara and Gale, surprisingly. The match is okay. Tara was booked much better here than she was last week, but something bugged me about it. When Tessmacher came out, she was not behaving at all like someone who's about to face her former best friend and mentor who stabbed her in the back. She was doing her normal entrance, smiling, posing, looked happy as can be. You know, if my best friend did to me what Tara did to Tessmacher, I would be really angry. And I would fucking look upset all the time. Is Tessmacher upset? She sure didn't look like it. She looked like she was totally fine with the way things turned out between her and Tara, and that does not sell me on their title match. I guess it's not a really huge issue, but still, it's little details like this that can enhance a feud or really take away from it. That was all the knockout stuff we got this week. No sign of Leva Bates anywhere, unfortunately. That was disappointing. No new information on that one yet. Leva's being really tight-lipped about it. I don't know if she's been signed or not right now. It's really annoying. Well, you're the leader of the gang she's a member of. So just go to the clubhouse and ask her. Seems pretty simple to me. I'm not going to dignify that with a response. Al Snow has a segment with Joey Ryan, and Al has to swallow his pride and offer Joey a contract after punching him in the face got Al into some hot water. And apparently Joey has never watched TV before because he signs the contract without reading it first. Because that always works out for people, right? But Al pulled one over on Joey, because the contract is not for a permanent spot on the roster, but for one match at Bound for Glory against him. So that match is finally official. And I have some mixed feelings about this. I thought the segment was very good. Al Snow was much better here than he was in their last exchange, and the angle might have been drawn out a little longer than it needed to be, but the build-up for this quote-unquote viral storyline I think has been pretty solid, considering it's sort of an unconventional way to do something like this. But my issue with it is still that I just don't want to see an Al Snow match at Bound for Glory.
It's not the 90s anymore and nobody wants to see you in spandex.
When I think biggest pay-per-view of the year, I don't think Al Snow coming out of retirement to face a guy who appears on the show once a month. But I'm not going to make a federal case out of it. TNA must see a lot in Joey Ryan to have invested this much time in him. If they've got big plans for the guy, I can put up with it, even though I don't really think it needed to be on Bound for Glory. The pre-show would have been fine in my opinion.
Thank you for your irrelevant opinion.
After that was something that really had me scratching my head. Samoa Joe has his first title defense as the new TV champion in a completely random bout against Bob Van Dam. Surprisingly short match, like most of the matches on this show, and Joe wins with the Muscle Buster.
Yes!
So Joe finally scores that elusive victory over Van Dam, and No Job Rob takes the night off.
Yes! 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 Yes!
Joe beating Van Dam was awesome, the match was decent, but then nothing happened. I kept looking for Magnus to show up and do something, anything, but he never appeared. Now bear in mind, there's been so little focus on it that at this point, I'm still not even sure if Joe versus Magnus is going to happen in Bound for Glory or not. In fact, I'm actually starting to think that it's not going to happen, that maybe they're putting it off until Turning Point so they'll be able to actually build it up. So imagine my surprise when Joe versus Magnus is announced for Bound for Glory later in the show.
What the fuck?
Of all the things about the product that don't seem important enough right now because of the focus on the aces and eights, this feud is one of the bigger victims. We haven't had any real build-up to this since Magnus hit Joe with a chair before No Surrender, and outside of one pre-tape on Championship Thursday, they haven't appeared in the same segment or even acknowledged each other since then either.
I was a war correspondent, and now I'm covering this!
Magnus could have attacked Joe after the match this week, or last week. He could have just walked out to the stage and done a stare down. He could have attacked Joe at No Surrender and had that be the reason why Joe lost the Bound for Glory series, but none of that ever happened. In the last 2 months, the writers have had so many opportunities to hype this rivalry and passed on every single one of them. They haven't even kept both guys looking strong either. Magnus is on a losing streak, for Christ's sake. I can't even remember the last time he won a match. How long has it been? What, 2-3 months? And now suddenly he's getting a title shot at Bound for Glory despite all these losses? How does that happen? Add this all up, and you've got a TV title match between two guys who have had virtually nothing to do with each other for weeks, in which the heel has no heat or momentum because he can't seem to win a match to save his life. I wanted the match to happen. I did. But why should I be hyped about it if you're just going to throw it under the bus like this? Yes, there's history between them, but it seems like the writers are relying entirely on stuff that happened months ago when they were still tagging together to sell this match, even though they haven't done anything to each other recently. They have done nothing to get people excited about this feud, and I'm sorry, but that is just lazy booking any way you look at it.
You people are fools!
They did Kurt Angle versus Chavo, and Chavo wins when Hernandez distracts Angle. This wasn't bad, but it felt unnecessary. By now, the tag title match at Bound for Glory is pretty well squared away. You set it up, you had the 2 triple threats with one half of each team, established tension between the face teams. You don't really need any more than that as far as wrestling goes. Any further hype for this one could have been done with promos or backstage segments. Of all the feuds you've got going on right now, this is not among the ones hurting for screen time. But I can't say the same about the X Division title match in No Surrender. If they're even going to have one. And right now, I still don't know. Zema Ion shows up for the first time since No Surrender, destroys Doug Williams in like 60 seconds, he won't release the submission hold so the decision gets reversed, cuts a promo afterward, and if he's doing anything at Bound for Glory, I have no idea. The only match that would make any sense is Ion, Sanjay, and Kenny King, but that would have zero meaning after they've all been off TV for so long. And maybe they could have Jesse Sorensen as the special referee to juice it up a little bit, but there's really no getting around it. They shit the bed on this one. After all the great work Austin Aries did with it, the X Division is right back where it was 18 months ago. Bobby Roode and James Storm have a segment that's really just about introducing King Mo, who's going to be the enforcer for their match. They go back and forth for a bit, King Mo comes out, Roode gets in his face and he shoves Roode over. Nothing really wrong with any of this, although King Mo's getup does look pretty goofy. The heat between Roode and Storm has cooled off a lot since lockdown because they were kept away from each other for so long. It's not going to have the same punch the feud had 6 months ago, so I don't have a problem with putting the sports celebrity in there to maybe bring a little extra attention to it, as long as the match doesn't become all about him. But I do think it would be a better idea to have King Mo be more of a tweener, so people will be wondering what's he going to do? Who's he going to side with? You know, make him more of an X factor. To have him obviously in James Storm's corner kind of takes the suspense out of this. Unless he turns heel, which I kind of doubt. I think most people are predicting a James Storm win at Bound for Glory anyway, but there's no reason to help that along. Austin Aries, Jeff Hardy, and Bully Ray had a triple threat match in the main event because Bully wants to prove that he should be Sting's partner at Bound for Glory. I did not agree with booking this match. Because of the lack of a real feud between Aries and Hardy, the main hook that match has is that it's a first-time ever matchup that we've never seen before. And here, they're basically throwing it away for free, albeit with Bully Ray in there too. Also, if you insist on doing a huge match like this on free TV, could you please find a way to announce it that doesn't make it seem like a complete afterthought? They have one little backstage pre-tape to set it up and that's it? Come on!
Oh, what a bunch of bull.
That should have been done in the ring, so they could make a much bigger deal out of it. And they probably would have had time to do that if the whole damn show hadn't been about pointlessly deliberating the Aces and Eights angle. They even presented it like a throwaway match. The wrestlers do their entrances, they go to commercial, then we come back from commercial and the match is already in progress? Are you fucking kidding me? Why should I think Hardy vs. Aries is a big deal at Bound for Glory if the way you presented them here pretty much says the exact opposite?
I will not participate in this charade this evening.
I'll accept the match being so short because you don't want to give away too much of that for free, and Aries vs. Hardy wasn't really spoiled by this, but there's a real issue here where both guys have now lost to Bully Ray in the last few weeks, illustrating so perfectly how the world title situation is taking a back seat to all this Aces and Eights crap. They even had the main event end 12 minutes early so they could devote the final segment to it. And look what happens. Hogan chooses Anderson as Sting's partner because he's a shameless Anderson mark, even though he himself admitted last week that Anderson has been really hit and miss lately, but the Aces and Eights have taken him out. So Bully Ray suspiciously appears and he gets the spot instead, which he was obviously going to get before they went through all this. And again, I have to point out the huge glaring flaw here. If the Aces and Eights are perfectly capable of doing stuff like this, why the hell is getting the doors unlocked even an issue for them? It hasn't stopped them from doing anything they wanted to do. It would be one thing if the doors being locked had completely fucked up their invasion plans, but it really hasn't. They said it did, but has it really impeded them in anything they've tried to do so far? Not really. Plot hole! They're still kidnapping people and beating guys up, still making their presence felt, doing everything they were doing before. So what are they really fighting for here? I'm sticking with what I said last week. This stipulation is complete bullshit. And what's making it worse is that the whole thing is predicated on Hogan trying to get them to release Joseph Park. Joseph Park, who they have kidnapped, beaten with a hammer, probably electrocuted, which you'd think would be a really serious situation, except no one on this damn show is acting like it is. Reference Hogan showboating last week, reference Tenay and Taz completely no-selling the entire angle, announcing it the same exact way they announce everything else, as if a man being kidnapped, beaten, and tortured is just a normal everyday occurrence. This whole thing is a fucking mess.
I'm done! I am done with you! I'm done with this entire show!
And now we've got Sting and Bully Ray versus two guys in masks at Bound for Glory. I know what I think is going to happen. And most fans are probably thinking along the same lines, that Bully Ray will just turn on Sting, or at least be the cause of them losing, and be revealed as being in league with the Aces and Eights. The live audience sure seem to think so. If Bully Ray turns out to be the leader, fine. It would be pretty obvious, but I wouldn't have an issue with it. I think it would make a lot of sense, actually. But if that's where they're going, I really hope they have a less predictable way of setting it up than the way it looks like it's going to play out. If they just take the obvious route, it'll be a huge anticlimax. If it's Jarrett, if it's Bischoff, it'll be a huge anticlimax. TNA have a big problem right now. 10 days away from their biggest pay-per-view, and it feels like they're limping to the finish line. They're building to the show, but there's no buzz for it. There's no sense of anticipation or urgency, largely because everything about the product has taken a back seat to a storyline that has jumped the shark and makes no damn sense anymore. And the match at the pay-per-view, with by far the most build-up, is the match that is the least compelling, as the entire hook of the match has been rendered meaningless because the storyline keeps contradicting itself. Nothing else feels like it matters as much as it should. I expect most of the matches will be strong, but the meaning behind them is pretty dubious. The X Division title match is a big question mark, the TV title match has almost no hype at all, and so on, and so on. It just feels like the hype machine stalled in first gear. They've been so reliant on the Aces and Eights stuff to move the product along, but now that that angle is falling apart, they're not left with much else to fall back on, are they? Get it in gear, TNA. You got 1 week left. Get off your asses and do something to get people excited for this damn pay-per-view already. No. It only looks damning on the surface. The whole thing is completely fucked up. Look, I know you guys have got problems of your own right now. If anyone would sympathize, it's me. But you gotta cut me some slack. I'm under a lot of stress here. No. No, I don't think so at all. I'm not going to apologize because I'm not sorry. No, they fucking deserved it. Thinking the worst about me just like that, jumping on 4th Dimension Fool Killer's bandwagon. Who needs them? They can all kiss my ass. You know, if I was the leader of the Aces and Eights, it would serve them right. Yeah. If. Nah, yeah, I know, I get it. Nah, that's alright. It's cool. It's cool. Yeah, we'll set something up for, Thursday. How's that? Yeah. Alright. Okay, yeah, Thursday. Yeah. Wait, what time is that where you guys are? Huh. No fooling. Alright. Yeah, I'll talk to you guys then. Okay. Later.